Welcome back to the final segment of 13 News Dialogue this morning. We thought we would share with you something special. 13 News recently received an Emmy Award for coverage of a trip that we took to England as we chronicled the history of the Jamestown settlers and some of the characters that made Jamestown legendary as we celebrated the 400th anniversary commemoration of the beginning of the first permanent English settlement here in America last year. 13 News photographer Jason Walsh and I went over to England last year, and one story we did focused on the legacy between Pocahontas and Captain John Smith. We wanted to show that to you right now. We're at the church in Gravesend, England, where Pocahontas was buried back in March of 1617. There's an effort here in England to correctly tell the story of Pocahontas and Captain John Smith.
Oh yes, John Smith, he's the guy who married Pocahontas, isn't he, if you ask people?
No. They never fell in love. He was 27, she was 11, so it's extremely unlikely they had a romantic love affair, whatever Disney says. It's much more likely they had a friendship.
John Hayden has written several books about Captain John Smith. Reverend David Robinson provides over the church where Smith was baptized in 1579.
You know, he was actually a swashbuckling hero.
So he was robust, he was vigorous, he was very, very difficult to kill, which is always a good asset, and he kept the colony going. And through his friendship with Pocahontas, he also kept them fed, because the Algonquin Indians, the Powhatan Indians, kept them fed through much of the hard winters.
Pocahontas was buried in the chancel.
Sandra Soder is a Pocahontas historian. She says the daughter of Chief Powhatan gained in stature when she saved Smith's life in a confrontation with the Indians, illustrated in this quilt made by Gravesend residents.
But this could have been a ritual saving of life. In other words, we have power of life and death over you and the colonists, and okay, we're going to let you live. Pocahontas, of course, has since that time been symbolic of trying to bring peace and a uniting of two peoples.
2 years after going to Jamestown, an injury forced Captain John Smith back to London, but he wrote glowingly to Queen Anne, who lived in this palace, about Pocahontas saving him and keeping the settlers from starving to death.
Everybody wanted to see her.
Pocahontas eventually did come to London with a settler she married, gentleman John Rolfe. She converted to Christianity and took the name Rebecca. The king and queen embraced her.
It was really big news.
She became a big part of a PR mission to encourage more expeditions overseas, but on their way back to Jamestown, Pocahontas became fatally ill. She was brought ashore at this spot in Gravesend. But she and John Rolfe did have a son, Thomas. He kept her legacy alive by having many descendants. President Woodrow Wilson's wife was one of them. So is Mary Riggs.
All the things that she did, learning a totally different language, a totally different culture, totally different religion, and I think her legacy is one for particularly in a day of women's rise to prominence. It's an example to look to.
In Gravesend, England, LaSalle Blanks, 13 News. And that was just one of the stories that Jason Walsh, 13 News Emmy Award-winning photographer now. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
And I were able to share with you, and thought we'd talk with Jason a little bit to give you more perspective about the trip, because this is really a big part of our history. Last year, we were all focused on learning more about Jamestown and these figures. How did this trip strike you?
Well, I think the best thing about it was we got to go where it started. I mean,
Right.
we stood at Virginia Key and saw where the settlers took off. We got to go to Gravesend and see where Pocahontas was buried. We got to go to Willoughby and see where John Smith was living. We saw his house. We saw the actual dish he was baptized in at that church. I mean, it was an amazing experience.
It was like history coming to life, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we were going back.
Yeah.
You know, because we've learned all this stuff about around here. I mean, we got Jamestown up the road. We have all the different historic places in Virginia. But to go to England and to see where it actually started, I mean, that was really a rewarding part of the trip.
And that's why we told the boss we wanted to go over there. And that's what we tried to accomplish. And the boss actually said yes, which was an accomplishment in and of itself, which was great.
No doubt.
But, you know, when we were all focused on the upcoming 400th anniversary of Jamestown, this was really a big deal.
Oh, it was a big deal. I mean, we had the Queen come over, which I never got to see her. I was really upset about that.
You got to go to England. Come on.
We got to go to England. I remember me and you were chasing limos around up at Jamestown when that was going on.
Yeah.
But we got to see a lot of, and we did a lot of other things. We went to like Hampton Court Palace, which was amazing.
The Palace of King James, of course, Jamestown named after him. He granted the permission for the voyage.
Yeah, and we got to see Big Ben, which is not called Big Ben, actually.
That's right. Well, what did they tell us? It was
St. Stephen's Tower.
Ah, you have a good memory.
Yes, sir. I had to edit that.
There you go.
But yeah, we got to see a lot of great stuff that, a lot of people, they go their entire lives without going to somewhere like London. And to just take that all in, an amazing trip.
During the nightly news every night, we cover a lot of crimes and fires and things like that. How refreshing was this for you as a photojournalist to be able to tell a different type of story through your lens?
Oh, it was great. I mean, you think about it, London is picturesque. Really, I couldn't mess that up. I mean, when you're looking at Parliament, you're looking at Buckingham Palace, all I have to do is hit record, make sure it's in focus, and we're good to go.
It was a great opportunity.
Yes,
buddy.
sir.
Glad we could share it with you guys at home. Thanks for watching Dialogue, and we'll see you next week.